Photography is not just about hitting the shutter button. One can also be involved in a process which can be very gratifying. In today's technology-driven world, technology has just overthrown historical processes which were slow and inconsistent. I practice a historical photographic process called wet plate collodion photography. Since I've always been fascinated by history, the history of photography is something that's more interesting to me. That's how I came about the process and decided to learn it and eventually started practicing. I make positive images on glass, which requires me to prepare all photographic chemical solutions and do everything with my hands. Just seeing the image come out on the glass while fixing it just blows my mind every single time. You won't get this kind of image with regular film or digital cameras, simply because film is sensitive to the visible spectrum of light, and since this is sensitive to a part of the light that we can't see, we get different images. I've had people ask me why even make photographs like this when there's film and there's digital, which are more consistent and reliable when compared to what I'm doing. And then there are people who see this process is so different, and the whole experience of making a photograph using this process is so intimate. It's so slow. There's so much more time involved. There's so much more effort, and there's so much more thought, which isn't really there right now with most photographers or camera users. It's not just pushing a button and looking at it on the screen. It's about being involved in the process of making the image. Considering the history of photography and the history of photography in South India, Hampi plays a vital role. It was one of the first parts of South India to be photographed extensively. Just reading about some of the old photographers and seeing the kind of images that they made me want to experience what they went through. I don't want to rival or emulate their experiences and photographs. I just wanted to go to Hampi and make some plates. Because in Hampi, there seems to be a warped sense of preservation, where they've actually demolished old structures in the name of conservation. I don't think they're adequately preserving history, and I can relate to this with the wet plate process I practice.
ನಾನು ಹುಟ್ಟಿದ್ದು ಇಲ್ಲೇ, ನಮ್ಮ ತಂದೆ ಹುಟ್ಟಿದ್ದು ಇಲ್ಲೇ. ನಾವು ನೋಡಿದಂಥ ಹಂಪಿ ಯಾರೂ ನೋಡಲ್ಲ ಇನ್ನು ಮುಂದೆ. ನಾವು ಸಣ್ಣವ್ರು ಇರೋ ಹೊತ್ತಿನಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಟೆಂಪಲ್ ಮೇಲೆಲ್ಲ ತಿರುಗಾಡ್ತಿದ್ವಿ. ಹಾಗೆಲ್ಲ ಎಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ ನಾವು. ಸಣ್ಣ ಸಣ್ಣ ಒಂದು ಗುಂಡು ಕೂಡ ಎಲ್ಲ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿದ್ವಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹತ್ತಿರದಿಂದ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಇತ್ತೀಚೆಗೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಯಾರನ್ನೂ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಕೆಲವೆಲ್ಲ ಏನು ಮ್ಯಾಪಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ತೋರಿಸಿದ್ರೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ಮಾತ್ರ ನೋಡ್ತಾರೆ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ. ಒಳಗಡೆ ಇರೋದೆಲ್ಲ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಭಾಳ ಮತ್ತು ಈಗೆಲ್ಲ ಕಮರ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕೂಡ ಕಮರ್ಷಿಯಲ್ಲೇ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದು ಮಾಡಿದೆ. ಹಂಗೆ ಹಳೇದೇ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ರೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಅವರು ಮತ್ತೆ ರೀಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೊಸ ಥರ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋದಲ್ಲ, ಅದೇನು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಹಳೇದೇ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಮುಂದೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಬರ್ತಾ ಹೊರಗಿಂದನೇ ನೋಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅದು ಗೇಟ್ ಹಾಕಿ. ಅಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಇದು ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಇದು ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ರು ಅವರು. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಅವಾಗಲೇ ಜನ ಹೋದರೆ ಬೀಳುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಂದೇಳಿ ಫಸ್ಟೆಲ್ಲ ಜನ ಹೋಗ್ತಿದ್ರು, ಯಾವುದೂ ಬೀಳ್ತಿದ್ದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದು ಇತ್ತೀಚೆಗೆ ಯೂರಿಯನ್ ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಿದ್ರೆ ಆವಾಗಲೇ ಸಿಂದ ಬೀಳ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅದು.
ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಥಳೀಯರು 328 ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿನ ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ 4 ಕಿಲೋಮೀಟರ್ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಶಿಫ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ವಿಜಯನಗರ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂದರೆ 16 ಶತಮಾನದಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಗಿತ್ತು ಬಜಾರು ಆ ಥರ ರೆಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅದ್ರ ಮುಂದುಗಡೆ ಧ್ವನಿ ಮತ್ತು ಬೆಳಕು ಥರ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಸರ್ಕಾರದವರು ಮಾಡಬೇಕಂತ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಇದೆ. ಅದೇ ಥರ ಇಲ್ಲಿದ್ದಂಥ ಜನ ವಾಸನ ಮಾಡೋದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ತೆಗೆದುಬಿಟ್ಟು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಕವೇಷನ್ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ. ಈಗ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇನು ಸಿಕ್ಕರೆ ಸ್ಟೆಪ್ಸು ಮೂರ್ತಿಗಳನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಮ್ಯೂಸಿಯಮಲ್ಲಿ ಇಡಬೇಕಂತ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ. ಸ್ಥಳೀಯರಾಗಿ ಮುಂಚೆಗೂ ಭಾಳ ಖುಷಿ ಪಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಎರಡೂ ಕಡೆ ಶಾಪಿಂಗ್ ಕಾಂಪ್ಲೆಕ್ಸ್ ಇತ್ತು. ಬಂದಂಥವರಿಗೆ ಫೀಲ್ ಆಗ್ತಾಯಿತ್ತು. ಒಂದು 20-30 ನಿಮಿಷ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಪೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ರು. ಈಗ ಬರೀ ಧಾರ್ಮಿಕವಾಗಿ ಸೀದಾ ಟೆಂಪಲ್ಗೆ ಬರಬೇಕು, ಪೂಜೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ. ರಿಯಲ್ ಟೂರಿಸ್ಟಿಗೆ ಟೆಂಪಲ್ ಅವಾಯ್ಡ್ ಆಗ್ತಾಯಿದೆ. ಬರೀ ಪೂಜೆ ಮಾಡೋದಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಕಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಅವಾಗೆಲ್ಲ ಬಜಾರ್ ಇತ್ತು, ಅಟ್ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ಬಜಾರ್ ನೋಡೋಕೆ ಒಂದು 5-10 ಮಿನಿಟ್ಸ್ ಟೆಂಪಲಿಗೆ ಬರ್ತಾಯಿದ್ರು. ಈಗ ಪಾರ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ಲಾಟಿಂದನೇ ವಾಪಸ್ ಹೋಗ್ತಾಯಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಬರೀ ರೂಯಿನ್ಸ್ ಒಂದೇ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಇವ್ರ ಪಕ್ಷ ಟೆಂಪಲ್ ಸ್ಕಿಪ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ.
Going on a recce trip really helps in identifying a good landscape and also the time at which the place should be photographed. Because it's just one image that takes 15 minutes to an hour, the recce really helps in reducing any chance of error. Since it's so slow and it takes so much time, each image I make, I have to actually think about it. I just can't keep exposing and developing so many plates. So I have to make sure the image I'm making is the image I want. It gives me some sense of accomplishment, which makes it all the more exciting. Much better than having 100 images and not actually seeing it or feeling it. in, man. What's also important with making landscapes using this process is avoiding the heat as much as possible. So putting up the dark box under the shade is a good idea versus putting it out in the heat. Because the process needs the darkroom available at the spot of making an image, it needs me to carry a mobile darkroom. So what I have to do is compose an image before I prepare the glass plate. Once that's done, I pour out all the solutions I need, like the developer, the fixer, and the silver bath. Once all that's set up, I dust off the glass plate and pour the salted collodion on it. After which, it's sensitized in the silver bath. Once it's sensitized, I have to make the exposure as soon as possible, because if the plate dries up, then it may not work properly. So once I make the exposure, I come back into the darkroom and pour the developer on it. So once the developer is poured on the plate, I slowly see the image appear with the highlights coming out first and then the midtones. And I stop development using regular water. After it's fixed, it's washed in running water or tap water. I read about the different sites that were photographed and discovered, and looking at some of those photographs which needed those photographers to carry their equipment over the rocky hills, across the river, over such rough terrain, is just so crazy. But I think that experience creates a strong bond between the photographer and the place where he photographs. There was this Nandi statue in the middle of the river on a rock, and the only way to get there was by ferry. The ferry is used by the locals to get across the river, so I had to time the shot well. I was there in the evening and the light was running out, so I had just one chance to make that plate. There were people waiting on both sides of the river calling the boat guy saying, Yelidya, Yavag Bartya. And if that boatman hadn't waited for me, this image wouldn't have been made. This trip to Hampi was something I was thinking about for quite some time. There are just so many places to photograph here. It has this whole abandoned, broken, and derelict feeling, which I can sort of relate to, because the wet plate process is also abandoned almost, at least in India. And I think I was able to get some really good images. Hampi has changed a fair amount since the last time I came. Like right outside the Virupaksha, they've just destroyed a whole bunch of establishments, some of which were really old, of historical significance. It really sucks because that shows that people don't have a proper sense of preservation of historical sites, which is quite depressing. And it also makes sense to some extent. Just like technology, we just wipe out the old and bring out the new. If we ask ourselves why we take photographs, the most basic answer would be to capture a moment in time. We take photographs to remember. Our memories are comprised of the experiences we have. Digital photography is so overwhelming that it reduces the experience of making a photograph. We are not capturing memories anymore. We are simply taking pictures. In the case of Hampi, a sound and light show can be so overwhelming that a person has little room to take back a personal experience. By making the world easy and more accessible, we are unintentionally obscuring our understanding of history. After all, how memorable can pushing a button be? Be it a switch to a sound and light show or a button on a camera.